This episode is all about taking the stress out of money once and for all. And it all comes down to one thing: a fully funded emergency fund. Hey, welcome to the Rachel Cruze Show. Today, we are going to talk about the importance of having an emergency fund. Even saying those two words, some of you are like, oh, wow, I really wish I had one of those. Some of you are saying, oh, I had it and it's gone now. Thank you, COVID-19. Some of you say, hey, I have mine in the bank. I'm good. But no matter what boat you're in, this episode is for you. So get ready. My dad, Dave Ramsey, is back on the show to talk about what a game changer it is to have an emergency fund and how to rebuild it if you use it. I've got a couple on who use their emergency fund to survive the COVID pandemic. Okay, 1 in 4 households in the middle class said that they couldn't pay all of their bills thanks to COVID-19, which means a lot of people out there did not have an emergency fund. But listen, even in a time of job loss, a health crisis, and uncertainty, you can have peace about your money. And an emergency fund, it gives you that peace of mind. An emergency fund is just money you've set aside for unexpected things in life. So it's really a buffer between you and life. That's always how I look at it. It's like this safety net. So you're like living life, something bad happens, and it just kind of keeps you from completely hitting the ground. And what it does also is it turns this crisis, a panic, into just an inconvenience. So I have a voicemail. I know I've mentioned this a couple times in the show that people can call in and ask questions. So I actually got a call from Christina in California. And her story, it was pretty heavy. I mean, she has a lot of life that's happened to her. So her and her husband, he's in the military. By the way, thank you so much for your service and everything that you do for this country. It's amazing. But they moved from Illinois to California. And then they got in a really bad car wreck. Thankfully, everyone's okay. But a lot of attorney's fees. They were sued a year long, just craziness with that. And then on top of that, now her husband is being deployed for 9 months. And so they had an emergency fund in place, and now they've gone through it, and they're at this point of kind of a crisis now because they don't have savings. It seems like they're living above their means, and now her husband is being deployed. And so what kind of direction does she need to go? So the way I always answer these kind of calls, Christina, is that you have to understand that money flows 2 ways. Money flows in and money flows out. So if the money that is flowing out is greater than the money coming in, more than likely you have an income problem. Because you're in California, again, it's expensive. That is exactly kind of where you guys have moved. Thanks, your husband's job and his service, which is just incredible. But you guys are gonna have to make some lifestyle changes and some changes to income. And so that may mean you going back to work for a little bit of time. Or again, if there's some income things that you guys can cut out, maybe you move to a smaller rental. You can make different decisions to help you guys in that buffer, because the key here is now you were on baby steps 4, 5, and 6, and now you're gonna have to go back and replenish that emergency fund, which is gonna be really key. And so I think for you guys, a great goal would be to at least get a month's worth of savings before he deploys. That's something you guys can work towards. It gives you a little bit of that buffer and kind of that starting launch pad to continue to save for that emergency fund. So be very, very diligent in the budget. Find ways to save money, find ways to cut expenses, and get that back up as soon as possible. And it feels like really, really heavy for you because you guys have gone through a lot in a pretty short period of time, a lot of change, a lot of heaviness. And so what you have to realize, though, is that no matter what, no matter the situation, you can do something about where you're at. And when you lose that power, when you lose kind of that feeling of control, that's when the hopelessness starts to set in. But be hopeful in the fact that you can do something different with your money. You can actually start to take control and get that emergency fund back. Now, guys, again, this is a heavy topic, and the emergency fund, it's there for you. And then when you go through it, that panic can kind of start to come back. And that's exactly what I felt from her. And if you guys have any questions regarding an emergency fund or anything with money, make sure to call the voicemail, leave your question at 844-944-1075. Now, if you still aren't convinced having an emergency fund is totally necessary, I've got some incredible stats for you. All right, before we dive in, I want to shout out Mama Bear Legal Forms for sponsoring this segment today. Legal forms, they can feel confusing, complicated, and maybe even make your head spin a little. But creating a will is so important. By creating a will and power of attorney, you give yourself and your family peace of mind when times of uncertainty come. So no matter your situation, it's super quick and easy to do it with Mama Bear Legal Forms. With Mama Bear, you get 3 state-specific legal binding documents: your will, health power of attorney, and your finance power of attorney. So going into an office and dealing with attorney's fees to prepare these forms for you can cost you hundreds of dollars. But Mama Bear Legal Forms is super affordable. I promise. Mama Bear Legal Forms is quick, thorough, and reliable. No matter what state you live in, they've got you covered. So get that done today. You'll be glad you did, and so will your family. So go to mamabearlegalforms.com and use promo code Rachel for a special discount on your will. Okay, with all the layoffs and furloughs that have happened during the pandemic, 77% of those who are laid off said that they expect to get their job back once this is all over. So that means not all hope is lost, as they just need some time, some cash in the bank to get them through these next few months, and they will be totally fine. And if you've ever wondered why I teach having an emergency fund and why it's so important, this is why. But out of all the examples in life we talk about, car crisis, job loss, maybe even a health scare, which all of those semi are what's happening right now. Maybe not the car thing for you. But a pandemic was never on the list. So I think that's always just an interesting thing I'm gonna add in the future. But the point is, we have no clue what's gonna happen. We have no clue. And we say it all the time. It's not if life is going to happen, it is when it is going to happen. So having a plan in place, you guys, having money set aside is going to help you when life comes. Again, I said it earlier, but it's so true. It takes a crisis, an absolute freak out, just into an inconvenience. So instead of completely panicking that your car is broken down and you have no clue what you're gonna do and getting the car fixed and having to go into debt for it, you now had a car problem and a financial problem. When you have an emergency fund, it's like, oh, we'll just fix the car. It's that easy. We'll just fix the car. So having an emergency fund is so crucial to finding financial peace. If you need to save up for your emergency fund, use my free Baby Step 3 Goal Tracker. Thousands of people have used it to color in their progress. Now let's hear from a couple who completely changed their financial situation, which helped them during the 2008 recession and now with COVID-19. Welcome, Jason and Allison. Thank you guys for being on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your story and what made you guys want to change what you were doing with money.
Okay, so back in what they call the crash, right? Back in 2006 and 7 and 8. At the time, Allison and I we were farmers. We actually worked on a farm, and we made like $43,000 a year, and we had no budget. And at the time, I think we probably had $1,000 in our bank account, and we had $19,000 in debt. And I had heard this guy, Dave Ramsey, on the radio, and I just decided, we were kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired. Let's just listen to the program, see what it's about, and let's try to fix the mess that we got into. So that's kind of how it started for us.
I love that. I think that's the point, right? You get to this point, like you said, and you're like, okay, I'm tired of living this way. It shouldn't be like this. I shouldn't have $1,000 to my name and thousands of dollars of debt. This is not working.
100%.
And so you guys really buckled down and you decided to get on a budget, start the plan. So I want to know about the first budget. What was that like when you guys sat down to do it?
Okay.
What was it like between you guys both?
So the budget was interesting. I always envisioned a budget as it was a bad word. And I just didn't even want to talk about it. You probably want to hear about our fights, right? So
well, we all have them. We all have them. So yeah, I'll hear yours.
Because when we did the budget, my wife is, she just trusts me and she's like, you do the budget. Well, that was not Dave's advice. Dave's advice is it needs to be a group effort. So I created the budget, but I slid it across the table and said, hey, look at this and can we agree to this? And there was one thing that you wanted different.
The clothing budget, of course.
Yes.
Well, before we got on a budget, I always felt so guilty spending money. Every dollar, I was like, am I taking from our retirement? Am I, taking from our kids? But after having a budget for each one of those items, it just felt so good knowing that that money is for that particular item.
Well, that's like the perfect example of that a budget doesn't limit your freedom, it gives you freedom.
Yes.
And so your life, beforehand, like you're saying, you're questioning every purchase. You were nervous, oh, is this stealing from our retirement? I mean, all these questions, but they're all answered in the budget. You don't have to have guilt or shame about it. It's there, it's planned for. I think that's incredible. So I'm curious, how long did it take you guys to get through baby steps 1 through 3?
So baby step 2, to get out of debt, we had a fixed income. If I made not a single dollar more, which was going to be the case, we were going to go, it would take 18 months to get out of debt. And then I ended up selling my Jeep, and my Jeep was at the time was my prized possession. I sold that because it was paid off at the time, and it would catapult us forward so much, and it gave us an opportunity. I rode my bike to work every day. Rachel, we went from $1,000 in our bank account, $19,000 in debt. 9 months later, we had no debt and $14,000 in savings. And this is why I credit Ramsey organization for saving our life. I lost my job. And if that would have happened with that debt and with no money, I mean, my kids never knew. They never knew that I went almost 6 months with no income, and they never knew because of what your organization did for us. So we literally credit it was saving our life. I was not a Christ follower when I listened to Dave originally, and none of my family were. And he would say, hey, this is how you should handle money. By the way, this guy Jesus said that. And I would be like, oh, that's cool. I just want to hear about the money stuff, right? But I now know, and at that time, we realized all of those things were leading us in a certain direction because God already knew where we were going. He already knew what was going to happen. And we were just lucky to hear the call to do these things to set us up so that we would succeed. And it was all because of Dave and Chris Hogan and Rachel. And so we're so grateful and blessed for that.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, that's the ultimate. That's our ultimate goal, right? And you even got there. I mean, that's it. I mean, the money stuff, like you said, we disguise it to show Jesus to people. And so that's it. I mean, you felt it, which is incredible. That really, that's such a higher calling of changing your family tree beyond even the money stuff.
Yes,
so,
100%.
That's an incredible legacy, an absolute incredible legacy. So for you guys though, man, so you changed spiritually, you changed financially. I mean, for the better in so many cases. So right now, there are a lot of families that they're struggling, they're freaking out, they've had to dip into their emergency fund because of the pandemic. What kind of motivation, what kind of hope can you give those families out there? Because you guys have experienced a little bit of that, when you lost your job, not through COVID-19, but earlier than that. So what kind of advice do you give for people out there who are kind of scared, they're kind of worried, they haven't really started a plan?
I can guarantee that anyone listening right now has probably been to a gym. And the first 3 weeks of going to the gym is the worst, right? It's hard to wake up every day and do something that you physically feel like is hurting you.
Follow through with it.
But after 3 weeks, you start to see a little bit of improvement. And it starts to get fun. And after 3 months, you see a lot of improvement, and you get stronger and faster. And things you couldn't do, you can suddenly do. And it will be hard, right? There's no shortcut. You're not going to just take money and put it into this account. It will take time, and it might take years. It literally could take years to do this, but it is so worth it because even if you keep your job, even if you don't get sick, but what if you do lose your job? What if you do get these things could happen. So when those things happen in our lives now, we walk different, talk different.
Yeah, it's now it feels so good to be able to give to people, to be in that position to people that are struggling or having a rough day, we can give.
And we're so grateful for the sacrifices that we made up front so that we could live this life. And I want that for all Americans because it is possible. It is totally possible. No matter what income you make, you can do this. You just have to stay the course.
It's amazing. Well, you guys are the complete picture of what it looks like to take control of your money and do something different. I mean, you changed your money habits. You changed the way you viewed money. You found the truth of how money works. You applied it to your life. You actually did the steps. And now here you are. I mean, debt-free completely, money in the bank, and able to take a whole other career, into real estate. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. You guys, thank you so much for being on. So if you want to learn everything that they just did, what they just talked about, make sure to go to daveramsey.com/hope and go through our free 14-day trial of the 9 Lessons of Financial Peace University. You're going to learn so much and learn how to take control of your money and be like these guys. I mean, absolutely incredible. All right, coming up next is my dad, Dave Ramsey. As a mom, every day I take precautions to give my family peace of mind. It's simple things like locking the front door, making sure the car seats are buckled in, and putting my phone away when I'm driving. But we don't always think about the bigger things. Like, what if something happened to you or your spouse? That's why you need term life insurance. It makes sure your family's taken care of no matter what happens. I trust Zander Insurance. They keep my family protected, and that gives me such peace of mind. They make things super simple and find the best options and prices. To learn more, call Zander today or go to Zander.com. Make sure your family has the term life insurance they need. Well, thanks for coming back on.
Obviously wonderful. Glad to be here.
One of my favorite guests. So thanks for being here.
It's mandatory that I'm your favorite.
Oh, of course. So you've been obviously talking to people for decades about getting an emergency fund and the importance of it. So everything that's going on in our country with the pandemic, everything happening, a lot of our tribe who has possibly lost jobs or being furloughed has had to dip into their emergency fund. So have you seen that really be the case?
Yeah, a lot of them have, but more than anything, they just had peace with it being there and knowing, and then they were able to work their budget and didn't actually have to dip into it. Of course, it's a case-by-case basis. If somebody lost their job, both people lost their job, and they had a bunch of other things going on, but usually they've been able to manage their budget and not hit it. But in the case that they did, that's what it's for.
That's right. So I think a lot of people, when they dip into it, I've heard, they feel like they're like, oh, they lose progress. They feel like they're going backwards in the baby steps, but just reaffirming to people that that's why it's there. So like you're not going backwards in a sense because you're going to fill it back up. You're going to get that fully funded emergency fund back. But I think a lot of people feel like they lose steam or that they're doing something almost wrong by dipping into it.
Well, I mean, you are going backwards, but it's not like a baby step sin. I mean, you haven't sinned the baby steps or something. It's just you used your emergency fund for an emergency. That's what it's for. But that does mean you took a step back, and you're going to fill it back up, and then you're going to move back on. That's okay, though. That's what it's for. There is a rhythm to life. Hopefully, we never have to touch our emergency fund. But, you know, the reason we have an emergency fund is we know emergencies happen. And so it's probable at some time in your life, you're going to have to tap that thing. And that's okay.
So talk about outside pandemic stuff. Again, going back 20 years of talking to people. Like how normal is it for people to say, oh yeah, they call you on the show or you talk to them and they say, yeah, we had to actually use this money. Because again, I think a lot of people watching or that have it, there is this like kind of guilt, like, oh, it's there, yeah, but I don't even want to touch it, this feeling. But that it's normal, that if you're in a situation that you have to have that money, you dip into it and that's okay. That's a good thing.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, what is the nicknames that we give the emergency fund? The classic one is Grandma called it your rainy day fund. Why? Because sometimes it rains, you know, and rain is to be expected, so you carry an umbrella, you know, and so that's a rainy day fund. One lady, and we've classically talked about this in Financial Peace University for years, one lady called it her GOK fund, her God only knows fund. God only knows what's going to happen, you know? And because he does. He's the only one that knows what's going to happen. Something's going to happen, though. Life is going to happen, and stuff happens. I saw it on a bumper sticker, you know? And so, you know, you just got to be ready, and you got to go, that's part of it. And it's like saying, my transmission broke, you know? Well, of course it did. It's a transmission. It's eventually going to break. And, you know, that's just, stuff is going to happen. You're going to have things come at you that you are unexpected, and that's the definition of an emergency.
So for people, it's funny, we classify emergencies like with car repairs or a health issue, but a pandemic is one that's never been used as an example of an emergency.
Well, no. I mean, if we had used that, we would have been accused of being crazy.
Yeah, some conspiracy
theories.
Someday
there's going to be a pandemic, and you better be ready. I mean, can you imagine the hate mail I would have gotten if I'd have said that?
So what are you saying from people because of the pandemic and everything that's happening? what is kind of the top emotion or so of people, even if they had an emergency fund or not, but how this has really affected their finances?
I think the folks that didn't, the phone is ringing. And when they pick it up, they realize it's their wake-up call. If you weren't ready and this thing came at you, this is your reminder to get ready, because it's not going to be another pandemic, says Dave. But I mean, who knows? God only knows, right? But it's going to be a transmission. It's going to be Aunt Gertie on the West Coast passes away and you have to chip in on her funeral. There's going to be stuff happen in your life. And to walk around with no money and deeply in debt and no plan, how's it working for you? It's not. And so, when I went broke, it was because I was stupid and I didn't have any money. And I didn't keep any cash. I didn't keep any liquidity. And I built a house of cards with debt. And so when I went broke, that was my wake-up call. And I had a never-again moment. And some folks are having a never-again moment. The ones that are sitting there with the emergency fund, they feel like the three little pigs that, one built a straw house and one built a house out of sticks and one built a house out of bricks. And when the wolf came and blew on the brick house, nothing happened. And they feel like they're the pig with the brick house right now. They feel like, hey, I'm set, Blow away, big bad wolf. I've got my cushion here. I don't have any debt. Gives me lots of margin. You see, if you don't have any payments going out and you've got a pile of money, even if you do lose your job, you can go a long time. But the added payments adds to the burn rate out of the checking account.
It does, and the level of fear that's there when you don't have it.
Yeah, it's a total crap moment.
Yes.
Oh, crap. Oh,
yeah.
It's what, what happened here?
So for people that did dip into their emergency fund during the pandemic for job loss or whatever the case may be, what's your advice to people to fund that back? What are the things that they need to do, not only emotionally to get gazelle tits again, but also tactically, what can they do?
Well, obviously, you need to pay attention to it. I mean, you've got to be ready for the next thing, and there will be a next thing. It may not be a culture-wide thing. It may be an individual thing to your family, but you got to be ready for the next thing. So we have to stop what we're doing and do that. And so I would just look at your income and your budget and say, how fast can we put this back if we don't stop our 401k in baby step 4? And if it's like going to take a year, you may want to stop your 401k again and go back to baby step 3. And do it. But if you can put it back and not mess with your 401k in 3 or 4 months, then put it back. And just, keep, do it that way. I don't care either way, but address the issue. Because, the very fact that you used it, it's just like the people that didn't have an emergency fund. This is confirmation that this is a good idea.
That's right. Okay, so when you look at people's budgets, what are the top few categories? You're like, yeah, you can cut these out to just fund that and put some extra cash away.
Well, I think you just go back to, beans and rice. Yeah. How bad do you want to not stop your 401k? You want to cut some lifestyle out or you want to temporarily stop your 401k? But you may have to do both to get the emergency, depending on how big a hit the thing took. But that's your worst case scenario. But, if it's me, I'd probably back off on the lifestyle a little bit and keep the 401k going and then let's fix this thing in a couple months. But you could do it either way.
Yep, absolutely. So good. Good practical advice, some motivation to get back gazelle intents to fund that back. And again, the importance of it. And we've been saying this during this whole pandemic conversation that, getting out of debt and having cash available and having a plan, it works. Well, it works during the good times and it works during the crisis. And so knowing that you're in control.
If you get the call and you answer it and it's the wake-up call, answer the call and say, never again. I'm now awake. I now realized about this. Maybe I was kind of in a haze and I wasn't paying attention. I was doing Ramsey-ish, or I hated Dave Ramsey or whatever. Dave Ramsey cuss word at my house. Whatever. I don't give a crud. Whatever the deal is. But the phone rang. Are you awake? Never again. Don't let yourself ever be there again.
Yeah, keep that urgency with you outside this pandemic. Keep it going. Let that be your motivation for sure. Well, thanks for coming on.
Honored to be here.
Chatting emergency funds. I love it. And thanks to Jason and Allison for sharing their story. And I hope you guys download the Baby Step 3 Goal Tracker to highlight your progress as you build up your emergency fund. So I want you guys to share 2 takeaways from this episode in my official Facebook group. And make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and check out the Rachel Cruze Show podcast. And as always, make sure to take control of your money and create a life you love.